to another episode of the Digital Blueprint. Today, our topic is targeted display advertising. I'm joined again with John Peterson. John, welcome.
Morning, Jim.
So as a small business person, I hear banner ads, I hear display ads, I hear targeted display ads, and we're going to talk a little bit about what they actually are. But what I really want to emphasize is how to best utilize them, right? I mean, what's the expectation for success, okay? Mm-hmm. Before we do that, I want to determine what's right for a market size. So there are two different types of target display ads. There's programmatic, and there's simply audience targeting. They run on different platforms. Mm-hmm. How, as a local business person, should I determine which ads I use? Any thoughts there?
For the most small business, audience targeting based on location is probably going to be an effective method for them. When you kind of really start talking and looking at programmatic, you're really trying to layer on data, layer on a lot more touch points, different bid strategies, X, Y, Z. So for the most small businesses, audience and geo-targeting are going to be probably just fine for them in targeted display.
Yeah, I always think it's more of a market size and competition conversation. So if I'm, one of 3 HVAC companies in a town of 50 to 100,000, and I'm the only one working on a branding initiative through targeted display ads, I think audience targeting is just fine.
Just fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Where it gets a little dicey is if I'm running a large regional or a national campaign, and the competition level is way higher, and you could burn through impressions. And so let me explain that. So the best example I've ever heard is if I'm trying to have an event in Vegas and I need a specific demographic, like let's say it's bachelorette parties. And so I go into what I would call audience targeting, and I just choose vacation intenders. Mm-hmm. But again, I only want for my particular venue, bachelorettes to come.
Yep.
If I pick an audience pool like vacation intenders, it makes a lot of sense.
Right. Yeah. People are going to have to travel to Vegas, most likely.
No question. But the problem is, in that same audience pool will be people going to Disney World, people that want to ride a roller coaster, and so forth and so on. And so what happens to your impression count is it shrinks, and the end business doesn't know that campaign is doing that, and these are vacation intenders, but the engagement rate is generally a little bit lower. So as a business person, it's really key, in my estimation, that you work with a digital provider that understands the difference between audience targeting and programmatic. And so let's pivot now to programmatic. There's many different tactics, as you can see here, that are programmatic. And I don't want to really get into a bunch of alphabet soup, yep. but we'll try and simplify this the best we can. But the difference between audience is we're picking a specific bucket of pool with audience, mm-hmm. okay, and they have a particular trait,
yes,
or behavior.
Yep. And
with programmatic, I'm getting even more precise. So, for instance, if I do site retargeting, what is that?
So if a person has been to your company's website and they leave, they're captured in an audience pool of people who have been to that specific website, and we can serve, or you can get ads served to you from visiting a website.
Very specific. So they've already shown a propensity to do business with a certain company.
Yep.
Because they've been to their site, and now we basically are following them around the internet.
Correct.
To try and get them to come back and engage.
Yep.
Now that's a very successful tactic, isn't it?
Extremely, especially for, companies that are seasonal, right? We're getting into winter, start running, furnace ads on site retargeting. Anything that has monthly promotions, right? So if you have a lot of web traffic and maybe you're in Native American gaming and have a lot of monthly promotions, what are the next month's promotions coming up? It's always great to use site retargeting to continue to inform people who have been to your website what the latest and greatest is going on.
Sounds good. Now we're going to pivot to another programmatic tactic. It's called keyword search retargeting. All right, now on keyword search retargeting, we are targeting based on keywords and phrases that are entered as part of a search. And businesses get confused on this all the time. We're not talking about the Google search.
Correct.
We're talking about maybe go to like a site like WebMD.
Yep.
And you click the little hourglass up there and you type there.
Correct. Yeah. So if you're going throughout millions of websites and looking for and putting in search queries, things that you're looking for with those specific things, whether it's WebMD, maybe running shoes on a running site or whatever, we're able to capture that information and then serve ads that are relevant to the search query with what the user was looking for.
Precise targeting.
Correct.
I think it's really important to note too, and why I kind of think of it in terms of market size. When we do precise targeting, what happens to our general audience?
Shrinks.
It shrinks significantly.
Yes.
And so we have to make sure we have a big enough pool to get to the right people,
right,
or we won't be able to get a particular number of impressions.
Correct. And the other thing you also got to remember too, for business owners maybe working on different kinds of budgets, the cost of the media, the more precise, generally the higher the cost of the media to serve those impressions is.
Excellent point. Excellent point. And one other thing that I was remiss in how we really should have started is that we're talking about static ads or HTML5 ads that move, and I'll show an example of that here in just a moment. But let's talk now about our next programmatic tactic. It's called keyword contextual targeting. Tell me more about that, John.
Yeah, we'd be able to see kind of the history of the sites viewed by a user and then match those keywords of the sites that they're going off of as a category and then be able to serve them ads around that.
It's kind of crazy, but there are 3,000 data points on every consumer out there. 3,000 things, the little breadcrumbs we leave all over the internet. And so when we talk about keyword contextual targeting, that's certainly an example of that.
Right.
The platform knows the sites and the words you're reading.
Correct.
And so it's the match game.
Yep.
Okay, great. How's that different from category contextual targeting?
So category contextual targeting is we would be able to in a sense, preemptively place ads on sites that match or have keywords around the services that you offer. For example, if you're a landscaper and, if somebody is going, the consumer maybe hasn't never heard of your business, but they're interested in maybe some, landscaping trends in 2026. So they're going out on websites related to landscaping. We can serve your ad content on those websites while they're researching.
Pretty simple stuff. I always think in terms of soap opera. Right? Mm-hmm. Those ads that run on TV are category contextual, right? Yep. I've got a bunch of housewives watching and we run a detergent ad.
Correct.
You see them all the time.
Yep. You're
watching the NFL and you want to sell beer. You got a bunch of guys watching the NFL and women that drink beer. That would be a category contextual ad on television.
Correct.
Okay. Same type of thing. It really determines on what type of site it is. Yep. Now, I always like custom site lists. They're not inexpensive, but it's an idea. It's a tactic if you want to maybe raise your brand level. So let's say you're a new brand in a market and you need more affluent people. We can actually go in and pick particular sites. Tell me more about how that works.
Yeah. So what we can do is we can actually run a site list of the most visited sites within a market and be able to serve ads on those sites only. For example, here locally, we have a lot of news organizations, news websites that are very highly trafficked, sports, etc. And so we can individually pick which sites we want the ads to be displayed on, and they would serve on those sites only.
Now, we've just talked about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different programmatic tactics. When a digital agency is running a campaign, how do they know how much budget to allocate towards each of those?
So unless it's specified, generally you probably start with what we generally like to do is kind of start with like 3 of those and then essentially monitor the campaign performance. And you'll generally try and kind of narrow it down to 1 or 2, right? I mean, on a general hold, behaviors throughout the consumer journey are probably the key indicator or the biggest indicator in targeted display that, someone's purchase to intent, right? So that along with site retargeting are generally the 2 when we're looking at kind of the funnel scope of trying to attract leads. Those are probably the biggest 2 of the 5 we've talked about.
Yeah, and I think the important part of that conversation, and I totally agree with what you're saying, is that the campaign should define the targeting.
Yep.
I've seen so many people that are in the ad space that go in and predetermine, oh, we're going to do 20% here and 10% here and 50. No. Yep. When you refine campaigns on a weekly basis, which in my opinion is best practice, you need to let the intent drive the campaign. And so for those small business owners out there, these are very important questions to ask when you're picking a digital provider. Are you going to do programmatic or audience targeting? That would be number one. If you get the deer in the headlights right there, run.
Yeah.
You have the wrong company.
Right.
Okay. Number two, when you set up programmatic, how are you going to determine which tactics? And the answer should always be, we're going to use a blended tactic strategy and let the campaign refinement determine what we focus on.
Yep.
Now remember, there's three things that really a targeted display campaign is supposed to do, and I think people miss this. This isn't about click-through rates. Impression counts are nice, but it has to do three things. And so if you own a business, these are the three things you're looking for. You pull up your website analytics, okay? There should be more people going to your site when you're running the campaign. So we should see an uptick of traffic, okay? There should be more direct name searches, which means they're going to skip the competition, and when they go in Google, they should be typing in your business name. And there should be more time on site. So your session time should increase.
Right.
Okay, so those are the three things. Those are the responsibilities of targeted display ads. I see so many people get this wrong, and they focus on what the click-through rate is.
Right.
The impression count, you're buying a particular number of impressions. That should be a given. You really need to look at those three metrics, and any good agency can help you with that.
Right.
And I think that is really the important part of our targeted display. Now, one thing we haven't done is I'm just going to show real quick here what those ads look like. I'm sure everyone probably knows, but I always feel like the very best depiction of that is when we get to the Weather Channel. They are the kind of the king of a display ad, okay? And you can see that's what this is over here. Apparently, I need some ice cream today. It sounds kind of good. It's supposed to be 86. I don't mind that. And then as you go down here, you'll see different ads and different types of targetings. They come in all different sizes. In fact, there's 16 ad sets in the continental United States. And it's important when you purchase a campaign from any company that you get a number of ad sets.
Right. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, they, as you can see here, they come in all different shapes and sizes, and the best digital companies are going to give you the most of those ad sizes to try and fill up the maximum amount of available inventory.
Right. I never am a big fan of a digital company, a digital agency that gives you 3 ad sets and says, there you go.
Right.
You lose opportunity, right? Because we're just looking at a desktop here. Let's not forget about the most important device, which would be a mobile device.
Correct. And also, too, to that point, if a company is only willing to give you maybe 5 or so ad sizes, there is a chance where it might try and take one of those ad sizes and fit it into an inventory space that doesn't match and could distort the graphic itself.
Very good point. Now let's talk lastly about ad content and ad makeup. These are important things too. So, and I guess it would be a good thing to mention too. We have to drop these people in a specific place. Have a landing page or an area on the site that's specific to what you're advertising.
Yep.
And so I want you to think about how this works compared to maybe a static billboard. So if I'm in a market and I want to sell Italian food, and I put a billboard up on a high traffic area, a static billboard that says Tony's Pizzeria, whatever, Tony's Linguini. I'm talking only to the people that drive by there that want Italian food, which is a very small percentage.
Correct.
The reason to do targeted display, in my opinion, is because I can specify people that want Italian food. Right. And I think advertisers miss that all the time. And every time I see a static billboard, I wonder why they haven't tried this tactic.
Right. Yeah, it is the online billboard to be able to follow and precisely target a set of individuals who only want or are interested in certain things.
Right. Now back to ad makeup, right? We need to have a strong call to action. It's important to have great visuals and to really have a strategy behind it. We want to use some traditional marketing tactics, right? 12 words or less, the less words, the more. If you want to put movement in there, you can. Sometimes it's distracting. Sometimes it works really, really well. You see a lot of animated ads in there. Those are all good ideas. Again, if you're not sure, talk to whoever your digital provider is. They should have all of these kind of best practices canned and ready to go. They can design the ad for you. You can create your own ad. I always like it when a client or a business relies on the expert to get the ad.
Right.
We feel those campaigns always work better.
Right. And to your point, the call to action should match the landing page. So like, for example, in that Culver's ad about ice cream, right? If you were to click on that ad to actually go to the Culver's website and then you're talking about double cheeseburger, something's off, right? So the user is seeing a message, seeing the creative, and they're expecting to go to a website to perform an action, whether that's to schedule an appointment, purchase, etc. So wherever the landing page goes should match the messaging on the ad.
Let's talk a little bit about how these ads are sold. I'd mentioned it earlier, but they're sold by impressions, which means every time the user sees the ad, they are getting charged. Now, it's literally pennies, right? These are sold in bulks, 50,000, 100,000, 150,000. But the way to pay is by your eyeballs viewing that ad for, I think it's like 50% of the ad for 1 to 2 seconds.
Correct.
And then that creates a transaction.
That's correct.
So it's different than search engine marketing where you actually have to physically click. So you don't pay for clicks here, you pay for views. Yes. So to me, this is another branding mechanism to get your message out there.
Correct.
So go ahead, I'm sorry.
I would also say to that point, as far as the number of impressions that are being served, it would be worth business owners asking the question, well, what if I'm serving 100,000 impressions to the same 200 people, right? So there's, work with an agency or find an agency that has a strategy as far as how to distribute those 100,000 impressions, 150 through frequency caps or whatever. So you can limit the amount of impressions any one individual sees during a day, during a span of 6 hours, whatever it could be. So that way it's distributing to try and maximize reach and frequency.
Okay, so you can set up day parts.
Yep.
Certain times to serve the ad.
Yep.
You can set up what's called a frequency cap. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So we just saw that Culver's ice cream ad on the Weather Channel. If, so that you don't see that ad another 100 times today, Culver's could set an impression cap on it to every individual within the audience campaign. So you might only be able to see that ad 4 times throughout the 24-hour period.
And is that for all devices, or how's that work?
Yes, all devices.
Okay, so cross-device matching. We haven't talked about that. That basically means your ad campaign will be on mobile devices, it'll be on desktops, it'll be on big screens. Right. When you do that, is that for both audience and programmatic?
Yes.
Okay, so pretty much everything out there does a cross-device match.
Yep.
Follow the consumer wherever they're going to be.
Yep.
Okay, good point. Now, you mentioned frequency capping. We mentioned day parting. What about how to spend the budget over a month? How does that work? Do you do impression counts every day, or do you allocate funds every day?
So it can be both. I mean, ultimately, it will be both. So generally what you would have is a daily kind of cap based on budget. So, if you have, I always kind of like to use the example, if you have $300 in a month, generally there's, let's say on average 30 days. So you have $10 to spend every day. Now we could accelerate that if you have something coming in the, first half of the month that you really want to try and push. We could accelerate the budget, at the first half of the month or the later part of the month, whatever. But generally for most small businesses, day parting or allocating the budget evenly throughout the entire month is best practice.
Well, John, great job as always. And I think this is very valuable information for any small or medium or even large business. The important thing here is targeted display is a great tactic. It's a great way to drive your brand at the consumer's eyes with precision so that you're only targeting people that are interested in your product. And that's why I love it. It should be a tactic really in almost any campaign, in my opinion.
Yep.
The important thing here is make sure you are working with a professional that understands everything we just talked about. If you can't find that person, keep looking because they are out there. There's lots of great digital people out there, but make sure as a business owner that you take the time to find the right person, because it can make or break your campaign.
Right. Yeah, and the business owner will know too if someone is just trying to sell you 100,000 impressions, or if they're the way they're kind of pitching and talking, you can kind of gauge whether they have their stuff together.
John, once again, thank you. And that'll do it for this episode of The Digital Blueprint.